Group 10, Feeding the World, Soil, Seeds and Commodification. My reading was on food and identity in the Caribbean, and after reading this article, I posed the question, would the introduction of hybrid seeds in Haiti result in more equally distributed food security across the country? This reading analysed the controversy of introducing hybrid seeds into Haiti, a country suffering with food insecurity due to high rates of poverty and a devastated economy following many natural disasters. The introduction of the Monsanto hybrid seed was met with great resistance from peasants. The article suggested that the local variant of Haiti seed should be preserved as it is more likely to stabilise food security and production, as the hybrid seed is subject to higher cost of production and threatens food sovereignty. However, when reading the arguments for and against the introduction of the seed, I wondered whether there was an equalised distribution of the food security created from peasants across rural and urban areas, as Haiti is still classed as one of the hungriest countries. As you can see from this map, there is a real problem of food security versus food sovereignty in Haiti, as there is an unequal distribution of the food crisis. The reading, Haiti is experiencing a major gender inequality of food availability, as I found when researching further into the question. 87% of households have women receiving a lower ration than men. This may be due to cultural discriminations. Therefore, maintaining local food production systems also maintains cultural inequalities, which has resulted in female-concentrated hunger. The introduction of hybrid seeds could increase yields and provide crops which are more resilient to weather stress. Therefore, a more stable production of crops could mean that food is distributed more equally. If NGOs have more control to the inputs of food production, which they would if they introduced a hybrid seed, then maybe produce would be distributed more equally. However, this would further threaten peasants' cultural identity and food sovereignty. Therefore, finding a balance between food security and food sovereignty is very important. For the arguments against, it is clear that the previous interventions have failed, as the elimination of local Haiti food systems, such as the Haiti pig in the past, meant that there was a massive reduction in household wealth. Food sovereignty and cultural peasant values of autonomy over production are also important. And it is important to reduce foreign food reliance in order to reduce vulnerability to global food crises. In order for this scheme to work, peasants have to cooperate with NGOs. However, due to distrust in NGOs from previous failed interventions, it is unlikely that the scheme will be successful. Peasants also have specific and indigenous knowledge of cultivation. Therefore, seeds are better adapted for the agroecological environment.
You mentioned that Haiti is vulnerable to natural disasters. Is there enough evidence that these hybrid seeds could withstand the devastation of these disasters?
I think that it is difficult to assess whether they can withstand the effects of natural disasters, as they typically in the past have devastated much agricultural land. However, if they can successfully strengthen food security equally across the country, then the population will be less vulnerable to the impacts of it. Therefore, the risk of famine is reduced. I believe that the benefits of local variety seeds benefit the rural farming populations more than the suffering urban inhabitants. Thus, if ethically distributed by NGOs, an introduction of hybrid seeds could help solve Haiti's unequal hunger crisis.
So my reading by Salazar et al. Was on whether soil is commodified, and discussing this in the frame of material politics and social theory. And the question I chose to answer based off this reading is, does commodification of soil prevent soil degradation? Soil degradation involves the human uses of soil to attract profits, leading to the quality of the soil decreasing and future use values being lowered. And soil commodification assigns value to the soil, framing it as a fungible, exchangeable product. Commodification can be seen to prevent soil degradation, as soil is purchased with farmland and used to grow food, meaning it's inherently linked to capitalist agri-food systems which commodify nature. Soil commodification can be seen to prevent degradation, as it involves more value being placed in the soil and thus more incentive to look after it and keep its use value higher for future profit. This involves viewing soil in the capitalist way and results in a desire to make sure profit can be made from it in the long run. However, this capitalist system of commodifying soil has not prevented degradation, and commodification can be seen to even increase soil degradation. An approach to soil degradation away from commodification using alternative ways of looking at soil may be necessary to prevent this. Commodification has led to industrial farming, which seeks to extract as much profit as possible from the soil, causing further degradation. A new, more ecological approach that respects nature alongside agriculture is much more likely to prevent soil degradation. And a new scientific approach that isn't influenced by the capitalist agri-food systems may allow a return to a simpler, more apolitical view of soil, focused on preserving and regenerating it so that it can be used by future generations. The nature of soil and its definition is one which is always changing, and as a result, preserving soils needs to occur separate from commodification because the capitalist value processes of extracting value aren't designed to handle things that fluctuate this amount. And lastly, by having soil as private property, there's less an incentive to take care of it for the benefit of others and preserve its uses for future generations.
In what ways do you think that farmers can prevent soil degradation through ecological practices?
Some practices that I found which offered a solution were using more organic matter and animal waste in fields instead of chemicals,
Yeah.
and also ensuring ground cover is there so the soil doesn't dry out,
Yes.
and reducing compaction through using controlled traffic and other methods. So to conclude, the commodification of soil does not prevent its degradation, as despite the incentive to preserve it for future use, the nature of the current capitalist agri-food system and the drive to extract profit from the land has led to soils around the world being degraded. Other solutions exist outside the current capitalist system, and new scientific approaches combined with a new view on ownership and an ecological partnership with the land could slow this degradation and protect soil for the use of future generations.